If you'll, I think we'll be standing for the Pledge of Allegiance anyway, so if you'll stand now. And before we bow our heads up, and will you take a look around you, front and back? What we got here is a lot of committed people who could be doing other things this evening, but choose to be here. So look around, we got a wide variety, as we need to have in an active community that moves forward. Now, having looked at each other, let us bow together for a moment of prayer. Dear God, whom we know by many different names and think of in many different ways, we come united in thanks for each person here. For the commitment, we could be doing other things, we are here instead, and so we give thanks for each other. With our broad diversity in ideas and perspectives, help us to listen patiently. Help us to keep emotions out where we can so we can think clearly. Help us to do our very best this evening, all of us, not just the speakers up front, but all of us, so that through this evening we will be more united for the community. Lots of ideas. Some brand new to some of us. Some like turning on a light bulb. Help us to be ready. This and much more we pray with great thanks. Amen.
Now, if you'll please place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming tonight. I think it says a lot about the community that I was born and raised in, that you all turn out for such an important event and take your responsibility as voting citizens very seriously. My name is Hartley Hoffman. I will be your host this evening. And as I mentioned before, our youth members who will be moderating and timing each of the candidates' questions and responses are Emily Lynch and John Redden. I'll be introducing each candidate on our panel by name and going over our procedure for the evening. We'd like everybody to know that we're here to provide the community with information. And I will start by relaying the information that you'll need to follow tonight's proceedings. Please hold your round of applause until the end to welcome everybody to the stage. In no particular order, we have Robert Youssef, a bank manager and mayor, Richard Avila, an alarm sales representative, Bob Coleman, an energy technician, Gary Cook, a realtor and nonprofit executive, Rick Crimeni, a business owner, Glen Holmes, a construction manager, Shellie Milne, a small business owner, and Bonnie Wright, a grant and loan administrator. Please welcome them. Each of our candidates this evening will have 2 minutes for their opening statements. This is an opportunity for them to detail their specific qualifications and allow you, the community, a glimpse of their abilities and their desire for your vote. In accepting the invitation for tonight's debate, each candidate has been equipped with 3 pre-selected questions. Time for response and rebuttals will be permitted. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to offer their answer for each question. 30-second rebuttals will be permitted, and a second round of rebuttals will be offered as time permits. The pre-selected portion of our program will be followed by 3 questions posed from you, the audience. Again, those index cards that you picked up in the foyer, if you can pass those down to the end of your row throughout the first section, we will have an usher coming by to pick those up. If time allows, a series of speed questions from the audience will also be included. Answers will be limited in this section to 1 minute, with 30-second rebuttals allowed. If time allows, there will be a series of questions posed from the audience that will be formatted in a yes or no response, in which the candidates have red and green cards to indicate their decision on that question. When time hits 8:30, candidates will have the opportunity to present closing remarks. This time can be used to summarize a platform and compare or contrast to other platforms in as positive of an approach as they wish. After discussion concludes at 9 p.m., there'll be an opportunity to meet and greet in the foyer with each of the candidates and constituents. Just as a friendly reminder, we do have to be out of the building by 9:30 tonight, so if everyone can please be conscious of that, we would much appreciate it. Our questions will be beginning in just one moment. After introductions. We will go in the order of your program, starting with Richard Avila.
Well, that's there you go. Good evening, everyone. First off, I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to participate in tonight's debate. Also, I would like to thank my fellow candidates for participating as well. My name is Richard Avila. I am 24 years old and work for B&D Security. I have lived in Hemet since 2001, originally from Escondido. The reason I have chosen to run for office is because Hemet is changing and changing fast, just like the rest of America. Government has become dominant in our lives, and has dominated our interests, like Patrick Henry, one of our founding fathers, warned us could happen in my favorite quote of his, which reads, "The Constitution is not an instrument for the government to restrain the people. It is an instrument for the people to restrain the government, lest it come to dominate our lives and interests." And I can honestly say that this is what has happened in America today. Government pretty much is involved in every aspect of our lives. Here in Hemet, we have a great opportunity to bring about change in more ways than one. We have this community that has come together, and we need to be able to make organic decisions here locally than have a bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. tell us how to run our lives and our communities. We cannot do this alone. We need to do this together. And something that we really need to hold true to ourselves is the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment, which I don't know if all of you have read recently, reads, "The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people." We need to be exercising our 10th Amendment here in Hemet. Thank you very much.
My name is Bob Coleman, and my purpose for running for City Council is simple. I want to restore public safety to the city of Hemet. I'm not a politician, and I will not be seeking higher office. That's not my plans. I am here because I believe Hemet deserves fiscal responsibility, it deserves economic development, and it deserves excellence in City Hall. I am a family man, I am a small business owner, and I'm a man who's tired of excuses that bureaucrats and consultants give us that we can't clean up our city. I'm tired of that, and I'm ready for us to start anew, to make a Hemet that's stronger. I've lived here for 4 years now, and as a relative newcomer, I find it fascinating that there appears to be a litmus test for the candidates to see who has allegiance to which union. And I can tell you that my only allegiance will be to you, the citizens and taxpayers of Hemet. The most important thing for us to do right now is to make our city safe. As we make our city safe, it will be a beacon to others that will want to come here and bring economic development. We have a lot of problems in the city we need to clean up, and I'm here to take care of that. I can give you one promise, that I will not raise your taxes. It is against our best interest to raise taxes. It'd be a foolish errand to do that. And once again, I will stand for you as your servant and not as a lord over you. I plan to be your public servant. And If you have any concerns, feel free to bring them up to me. Thank you.
My name is Gary Cook, and my grandparents moved their business to Hemet. They bought property here years ago, back in the 70s. Recently, I moved to Hemet July 4th weekend in 2011. I came here because I have a nonprofit, and the nonprofit is designed to create a better community by creating jobs. The nonprofit is directed towards youth who are at transition age, specifically and most poignantly towards youth that are in foster care and who are emancipated. It's targeted at 18 to 25-year-olds. My goal in coming here was to create a better work environment because the economy at that time was 22% unemployment officially. Today it's officially 16%, and I don't think 6% of the people have gotten jobs in the last year. So my concern is trying to create an environment where the small businesses that exist in Hemet can thrive, can grow, can come out of their garages, can begin to provide the kinds of services that are needed in this community that some of the other larger businesses are getting from out-of-town companies. And my goal is to, and I know that I can't do this necessarily as a city council person, as a city administrator, so I'm not speaking with that hat. I'm talking about being invested in the community, working with the community to help develop these kinds of businesses. I'm currently working with a property owner who happens to be in San Jacinto, but is amenable to the idea of working with me to create an incubator for small startup businesses. And these businesses will be allowed to come into this building and rent space by the hour, the day, the week, and the month. Because there are over, I understand, about 80 businesses, commercial properties along Florida Boulevard alone, which have become vacant. Over what period of time, I don't know, but these businesses that were there are no longer there. And in fact, according to the Chamber of Commerce in 2010...
Mr. Cook, your time is up.
Good evening, Hemet. I'm Rick Crimeni. I came to this valley in 1989. I raised my two daughters, Marissa and Brianna, who are in the audience tonight. I have a 94-year-old mother that is living with me. I own the arrangement gallery floors since 1989. And I'll tell you, I've made a lot of great friends in this valley, a lot of great citizens I've met, and I know how tough it is to keep my business in business today. These have been the toughest 2 years of my life. I have sat on numerous boards. I was president of the chamber, president of Kiwanis, sat on Ramona V&A, Hemet Hospice, and CASA, and numerous committees. I have watched the city change, and it hasn't changed for the good. Our seniors, our citizens, our community deserves a safe and protected city to live in and to be proud of. We must have a council that works together well. And more importantly, for our citizens and to hear their voices. We must not sit back and wait for change to come. We must aggressively go after it. The citizens are speaking, they're engaged, and we want our city back. And that's why I'm running for city council.
I decided to run, right in the nick of time, the day before the filing deadline. I had been politically active for 4 years within the city of Hemet. I had seen changes being made. I was frustrated with decisions that had been made long ago, and that the fruition of those had come to pass as Hemet was slowly declining. I was impressed with things that the city had done, not so impressed with some other things that they had done. But more importantly, I looked at my 6 kids and said, wow, this is not safe. We moved up here out of the San Diego area in order to come to a safer place. To come to a rural area, we came to a rural area. I come from a background of farming. This is where the land was. It's a beautiful place. We come up here many, many times, have many friends up here. And coming up here and seeing the streets, seeing what was happening, and looking and realizing that not only were the city officials struggling, but the reason why we were struggling was because of all those things and the mandates, the laws that were put on us, not by ourselves, but by the county, state, and federal people. I was fighting against those many, many, many times during the 4 years. I've been up to the podium many times in Hemet, demanding answers for why things were happening the way they were, demanding questions, demanding answers, not getting them. So I decided to run because I believe that in order to do this, we have to become engaged, not because we want to, but because we must.
Good evening, my name is Bonnie Wright, and I appreciate the opportunity to come speak with you tonight. I've been a member of this community since 1983, almost 30 years. I have been engaged in this community in various capacities all of those 30 years. I've been chairman of the chamber, chairman of L.I.I. Economic Development, chairman of Kiwanis, and served on several other community service boards, and I'm currently serving as on the executive board of the Therapeutic Handicapable Equestrian Center. I'm vested in this community. I raised my children here in this community, and it was a community that I was once very proud to be a part of. However, the conditions of this, of where this community has come the last 5, 6, 7 years is not one I'm very proud of. I think the citizens deserve better than this. I think we need to protect our citizens with adequate public safety and make it a community that we were once very proud of. I see that we no longer have the residents or certainly the visitors to this community. Our economic development in this community has wavered, and it's time that we get our city back to a condition that is viable for everybody. Protecting our seniors, protecting our residents, protecting our children is by far very, very important to me, as it is to those of you sitting on in this audience. I believe that my diverse background, being a business owner for 17 years in town, working in a congressional office, and learning the government process, as well as knowing how to bring money home. I'm currently a grant loan administrator for Eastern Municipal Water District, and I've been successful in bringing $345 million to that.
Bonnie, your time's up.
Already?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Robert Youssef, and a little bit about me. I am a vice president for a bank. I have my branch here locally within the city of Hemet. And when I ran in 2008, I ran very simply. I remember when the financial institutions crashed early on. There was an article that came out in the Valley Chronicle. The city had $10 million in reserves. And we were proud that we were going to weather through the storm. Within the next budget cycle, we were looking at a deficit. Obviously, the current system in place was simply unsustainable at the city of Hemet, like it was for many cities, and a lot of them that you're seeing now that have filed bankruptcy. Under my leadership and with this city council, we have turned around a total of $13 million over the last few years in deficits to have $12 million in reserves through tough choices and through privatization. But the good part is that we've done that without raising taxes. I was proud to introduce and sponsor 2 years ago 2 measures for elected officials. one to remove medical benefits for elected officials, and the other to place term limits on there. Those passed overwhelmingly. I also am proud, under the leadership with the City Council, to have led the Hemet Rocks program, which is in its early stages now, which is restoring our community strategy. There are many ordinances that are involved. The big piece is that absentee landlords will be held accountable for their bad tenants. In short, the next few years will be extremely difficult. We need fiscal responsibility. We need to make tough choices. Thank you, and thank you for your time.
Ladies and gentlemen, those are your candidates. We'll now begin the pre-selected question period. I'd like to remind you again that if you do have handwritten questions, please pass them down to the end of your aisles and our ushers will pick them up.
Okay, we'll start off with Mr. Avila, and the question is, how do you plan on improving Hemet's economy? For example, job creation or attracting businesses?
Testing. Something I thought about a lot, being 24 years old. My generation is facing pretty jobless economy overall. Something in Hemet that we could do is, in my campaign, I've been talking to some small business owners, and they seem as though regulation, not just from the city, but from the state and the federal level, tend to stifle investment and growth for small businesses here. We need to be able to let businesses do what they do best, and that's create jobs and basically, grow our local economy. By doing this, we need to cut back regulation, and we need to cut back these fees for these business owners. We need to talk to them. We need to come work together with them, find out what exactly it is that they need help with, and how we, as a city, can help them overcome regulations that we have here locally, or regulations from the state level or the federal level. We need to be able to help these business owners do what they do best, and again, that is create these jobs and grow our local economy. That's the only way that we will see the overall quality of life in Hemet go up. Thank you.
Before we can bring businesses to our beloved city, we have to make our city safe. That is first and foremost. If our city is not safe, businesses will not come. We have a first impression to give, and right now our first impression is lacking because we are not a safe city, not as safe as we should be. As soon as we develop our public safety to the point where we feel that we are a safer city, businesses will be willing to come. We have a strong workforce ready and willing. We have a younger generation that has come in during this last downturn, and they're ready to work. And I think that we can portray that and show that to businesses that would like to come and fill up with high-tech jobs and similar situation. But once again, it's our image. Once we put out a good image for our city, then businesses will be interested. Before that, there will be no interest.
I don't think we can wait until the safety situation in this town improves. I think we need to force ahead with creating jobs. There are a lot of people who are entrepreneurs in this economy. When there's an economic downturn, the entrepreneurs begin to thrive. I think we need to make it beneficial for them. We need to facilitate their coming out of their homes. I also have an idea to work through my nonprofit to create an opportunity for youth to do calls to businesses that could come to Hemet by cross-referencing lists of businesses in expanding industries with other lists of businesses that are providing high-income positions. And then look again at that list and then compare it to the types of businesses that can have on-the-job training. Most businesses can have on-the-job training to create opportunities. And I think that if we focus on developing these kinds of relationships with companies who could move here, the next step is to put these businesses in a position of having an opportunity through reductions in fees for establishing their businesses. Not all fees blanketly, but some fees and also to have a program of sharing sales tax revenue to help them grow their companies. But I don't think we can wait to see how safety is going to improve. Safety is what it is today, and we need to improve that, but we need to also focus, I think, as a priority on creating businesses.
I do think that safety has to come first. In order to change the economic development of our town, we must get back into business. And you know, there's an association called ICSC. It's International Conference of Shopping Centers. We used to go to them all the time. The last 4 years, we've gone twice, and that was May and in July. And we've got to go there. We've got to see the people that are looking for locations to put their businesses. I'm talking about, that's how you got Applebee's, that's how you got Chili's, that's how you got Red Robin. Because our council in the past went out and got them. We've got to get back to those conferences. We've got to get back into business. We've got to bring back our tourism program that brought in hundreds of thousands of dollars, that helped our golf courses, helped our RV parks, helped our motels. We're not out there anymore. They dropped that program 6 years ago. We must bring it back. And that brings in the tax dollars. So once we get our feet on the ground with the safety, we've got to go out and bring the business in. It's not going to come to us if we just sit there.
Okay, I agree with Mr. Greenberg. We absolutely do have to do safety first. Would you right now, any one of you, encourage one of your friends to come to Hemet to start a business? It's hard. I'm a small business owner, I know. My husband, we have a small construction business. The economy is tough. Do we do more work in San Diego? Yes, because the economy is better in San Diego. But you know what? They're doing the work in San Diego where there's safety, there's people that want to be there, the branding is good. We have to get back. We have to give people a reason to come here. Safety must come first, then the rebranding. We must accentuate everything that is absolutely wonderful about Hemet, about why I came here. We are still a small town. I know that's lacking in today's day and age. We are still a great, what I consider a rural community that it can still grow and become wonderful. And the one thing that's going to do that, we have got to get rid of the regulation. We have got to get into City Hall and require that the government get out of our way.
Well, none of us disagree with the fact that safety is our primary goal, and it should be. We should make sure that our citizens are by all means safe. To do that, we need to also clean up our blighted areas and have an active code enforcement policy where we can take block by block, street by street, and clean up the areas that we are not proud of. We need to address the vacant commercial buildings by offering, and perhaps offering incentive programs that are fiscally reasonable and try and bring businesses into the community. It would be helpful to create a one-stop shop to encourage a quicker process for developers creating a business-friendly environment. It would be beneficial to bring back the red teams we used to have, who were ambassadors for the city. They met with potential businesses and also helped with retention of businesses. We need to focus on the positive of the community, our good location, our good weather, and the fact that residents here are a captive audience. We need to go after commercial and industrial development, which will bring in jobs, tax revenue, and once again also engage the community. We often, I've been here for so long, and of course I didn't grow up here, but this community used to be engaged in all the positive things, not the negative. You might see that happen again.
Actually take a little bit of a different approach in terms of what we see about some of the retailers and so forth. As we all know, the economy is not in a good spot. The economy is not good for retail. It's not good for some of those things that we've seen in the past that the city has gone after. The biggest problem is that the city has not defined itself on an industrial piece of what does the city want to go after. What are we going to be known for? I'll give you an example. The city of Temecula, they pound technology hard. They go after the technology firms, and they have that whole technology drive right off of Winchester Road. What is the city of Hemet going to be known for? We just finished installed general plans, and now that we have the blueprint, now we can say, what is the city going to be known for? Is it medical? Is it industrial? Is it technology? Those are the things that are going to then bring the dollars, because folks, the reality is Best Buys and restaurants, what the first thing to do is say, what's the median income in the city of Hemet? And we've seen that in the past for places that have come in and said, well, what's the income? We look at it and say the income's too low. The reality is those are going to have a hard time if we're going to focus on going after those retail stores. That's how we're going to get real job creation. I'm also not going to plan on cutting fees. This is already a very strapped city of Hemet, as we all know. The difference is that we have to get rid of the red tape. Businesses will pay the fees as long as they can get in and out of the permit process as quickly as possible. And those are the steps that we can do. Then we can start looking at, once we see the income levels rising, whether it's through education, medical, those kind of things, then folks are going to want to spend their money here, and then they're going to see that, and then you'll see the retail follow.
Okay, we finished our first round of that question, so I would like to ask if anybody has a rebuttal or something they'd like to address to one of the other candidates for 30 seconds to add something that anyone would like to use a rebuttal. We'll start off with Richard Avila.
Testing. Something that a few of you said was we need to focus on public safety first, and then go about and helping our get business friendly. What I would say to that is, what about our business owners that are currently here now and struggling now, in this very moment? I think we really do need to focus on business first. The best way to get the quality of life up in Hemet is give the community jobs and the ability to better themselves. So we do need to focus on businesses here now and not leave them aside and focus on public safety only. But it's very important to focus on public safety.
Mr. Cook, did you have a rebuttal? Okay, Mr. Coleman will go first. We'll call Mr. Cook.
Excuse me. No, I just wanted to touch on something that Robert had said about the median income. We've seen that it's around $35,000 a year here. And that's not enough, like you said, to bring businesses in. You made a very good point. In order for us to be competitive with our neighboring cities, we need to bring that up. How do we do that? We get more people jobs. With 16% unemployment rate, that's bringing down that median income. If we can get more of those people with jobs, that will bring up that median income, show those businesses that this is a place where they can bring their companies, we can spend our money there and bring sales tax dollars into our city.
Basically, businesses will come if there is an opportunity to make money. There are a number of businesses in town that are making money. Chili's is one of them. Coco's and a few other restaurants. But we really need to diversify the economy. We can't depend upon just retail. We can't depend upon any one particular thing. We need to diversify it as much as possible. I don't think we can wait for the situation to improve on any level. I think we need to really force ahead and find ways of bringing businesses to town. Whatever it will take on an individual level to negotiate with any business to come to town. But I think we need a stronger workforce. I think we need vocational training. I think we need to focus on...
Mr. Cook, your time is up. Thank you. Anybody else like to use a rebuttal?
We must get our building department back on a business-friendly basis, okay? And make it easy and expedite businesses to come in here. And business will come in if we make it safe. And if you look at yourselves, where do you go shopping? It's either in Temecula or Banning Beaumont. They make that circle. They make the Walmart, the Best Buy, and Kohl's. We don't have anything here. We've got to go after it and get it.
Is that good? There we go. Yeah, I think we do focus on safety because I think we can multitask. when we say that we focus, yes, safety is. People don't want to go, how many people have said, I don't want to go out because the parking lot may be unsafe, I don't like the panhandlers, I don't like this, I don't like that. Why do they go to Temecula or Banning? Because they feel safer shopping there. It is a dual process, and absolutely, regulation has got to be lifted. If somebody knows there's a flat fee coming in, and it's only going to be that flat fee, they're going to be more prone to do business here.
Well, I actually agree with a lot of what everybody says, but what I'd like to add to that is that it's unfortunate that we do have a low median household income, because it does cause problems bringing economic development. On the other hand, it does give us the opportunity to take advantage of external funding sources that are available to what the state calls us as severely disadvantaged. And I think we need to take advantage of those opportunities as well.
Folks, when the city of Temecula was growing, the first thing they went and found Guidant at the time, which is now Abbott. So they went and found a major employer within the city. And then what came after that? More major employers. And what came after that were restaurants, or stores, and eventually a promenade mall. And so that's where we have to be driven at, is how are we going to get those types of jobs, and how are we going to get rid of the red tape to make it easier for them to go ahead and get to that process and make it an economic advantage to come here and hire employees here with the city of Hemet.
Okay, that concludes our first round of our first question. So our second question is, and we'll start off with Mayor Youssef and work our way down, is what is your position on public safety, and how do you plan on improving and sustaining the resources needed to accomplish that?
Obviously. There's not a doubt, and there's not anyone up here that won't tell you that there is a need for additional resources for public safety. Now, there's a few options that are available to you. Number one is we can raise your taxes. Number two, there's the option of contracting. And number three, which is the one that I favor, is like, how can we use our partners and share resources? Folks, there is a city just a few miles north that are in the same problem that we're in. They have asked us repeatedly, let's find a way to share resources so we can share the burden of public safety so that we free up more resources for public safety. And those are some things we have to start taking a look at. Yes, some of those choices are tough. They're absolutely tough choices. But we have to, as a community, decide how we're going to go ahead and get through these next few years. Now, we've done a good job of putting money in the bank, but folks, a few years of that and we're broke again. That's the reality we're facing with the state that's rating us. We have to find a way to share resources. My plan is to go ahead and find that way to share resources. I've had a few good meetings now with both San Jacinto, the County of Riverside, and our police chief, and we've met collectively to find out what can we do as the regional force to go ahead and combine resources and share that tab. Once we do that, and we find that on a bigger scale, that's going to be the step closer to go ahead and help paying for the rising costs in public safety.
Well, first of all, I think we already share resources between our local PD, fire department, and other outside sources. So I think currently we work collectively to make a better community. Do I think that all options need to be explored? Absolutely. But I think they need to be done fairly, and I think that that our first and foremost job is to be fiscally responsible, and also providing the best service for our community. There's ways to do that, and I'm a strong proponent of external funding. I'll tell you right now, the funding is out there, and we need to go get it. Other communities do, and we would be short-sighted to think that we shouldn't explore that option as well. Anyway, we need to explore it, responsibility for doing what it needs to be done for our safety. And those external funding opportunities are certainly one way to do that.
I agree with Robert. I think we do need to look into shared resources. If we are indeed now sharing resources, we're not sharing enough, we're not doing enough, we're not going above and beyond the whole meeting. There is more out there to be done. There is more out there to look at. There are easier, maybe better ways to do what we're doing, but we don't know that. We need to look at the books. I spend most of my time as a turnaround manager, retail management. I would go and look at the problems and do an unemotional, fiscal, hard look at the numbers to see what works and what doesn't work. And that's what needs to be done. Nobody's here to pick winners and losers. We're here to say, let's look at the numbers, get with everybody, get everybody involved, and decide what's the best fiscal choice and the most sustainable choice. I do not think that we can secure our safety by one-time funding. Look at what just happened with the Safer Grant. It gave us a false sense of security. We can't do those things. And guess what, guys? The government's out of money. As anybody knows, we have a $16 trillion debt. I know they say there's money there, but it's play money, it's not real money, and it's not sustainable. We can't balance our checkbook from this one-time funding.
I disagree. There is fundings there, and the governments have put that money there for cities to use. There's tons of grants out there. Now, let me just give you, I'm against contracting out to other sources. Let me give you a quick example. 2004, San Jacinto went out to the Sheriff's Department. Their contract was 3.9. To keep their own fire and their own police was 4.1. Their first year bill was 5.2. They have 44,000 population. They have 36 officers, and now they're up to $9 million. I don't want a contract.
I've talked with a number of people over the last few weeks that have been working on my campaign. And some of the things that I've had other people tell me is that the city of Marietta has come up with a plan to put a opt-in $4 fee on the water bill for people to choose to pay a little bit more per household so they can avoid having the cost of paramedic service when an emergency occurs. Sort of like an insurance program. So I think that's a good idea. The other thing, I'm not sure if it was Chief Brown that said this to me, but I interviewed him for about an hour and a half a month ago, so I can't be sure it was him. But someone spoke to me about a very small parcel tax that the city might put on citizens who have either rental property or their own property. And that little parcel tax, a very small amount, could add up to help the police department. But I don't think that we use our resources correctly. I think that our police are doing things that is better done by the owners of the properties themselves. I think they're calling the police to do things that their own residents, their own renters are causing them, like Section 8 housing and so forth. I think that our resources are not being spent wisely. Also, I know our fire department is going out to convalescent homes to pick people up off the floor that have fallen down because the workers in convalescent homes do not want to.
Mr. Cook, your time is up.
I think our resources are being spent incorrectly.
What a foolish notion it is to say, hey, let's raise taxes or let's raise fees. We've already done that. The problem with government isn't that we don't pay enough taxes, is that the government spends too much. When we say, I'm not willing to contract out, what we're saying is I'm closed-minded. I'm not willing to look to see if there's a better option out there. It very well could be that when we put that out there and say, you know what, how much would your services be? If you don't even do that to ask for the competition, how do you know it's even cheaper or you can get better service with more people? It's so upsetting to see that. To make public safety number one, we need to see what the best option is out there. We need more boots on the ground. How do we get that done? We have to see what our choices are. We can't just say, we're going to stick with the Hemet PD and that's it. Whatever numbers they give us, that's what we're going to pay. We need to bring competition, like a business brings down prices through competition. If we ask them what they would charge, at least then we would have a number. The only numbers that we have to go off of are the numbers from the police unions. That isn't good enough. We have plenty of ways to bring in more boots. We've got ways to bring in business. We don't need to raise taxes. I know at least one of us was willing to raise taxes on each one of you, but we have people with fixed incomes. This is a city where a lot of our population are senior citizens, and they cannot afford to pay more. I will not be raising your taxes, I can tell you that.
I agree with a lot of you. You know, we cannot raise taxes. We haven't recovered from what happened in 2008. The middle class is still disappearing in America. We can't raise taxes. What we need to do is we need to prioritize. Public safety should be one of our top priorities. Public safety budgets police and fire should be the very first budgets that we fully fund 100% before we even touch anything else. We need to focus on police and fire because like a lot of you guys said, we do need to have a safe community for businesses to come. But we cannot forget the businesses that are already here. So we have to help them out simultaneously. But we do need to prioritize fire and police. And I'm against contracting out as well. I'm a strong supporter of keeping local control and keeping the control as close as possible to the people. And that goes, into many issues that that we face here in the city. We need to focus on local control, and we need to be exercising our 10th Amendment that our founding fathers gave us. That can resolve many of our issues by just getting the federal government and the state government off our backs and giving us, we the people, the ability to make these decisions on our own. Thank you.
All right, we're going to start with rebuttal, so we'll start with Mayor Youssef and work our way down.
I absolutely disagree that going out for grants to hire employees is the right way to weather the storm. It's absolutely false. Number one, grants that we did have in place, either A, went away. The police department had a number of grants that they no longer were available. They just didn't exist anymore. Luckily, the Smart Heads of the police department, we were able to award a COPS grant because of our Hemet Rocks program. The only reason that this was awarded to us is they thought they saw this innovative program and saw what we could do with it. Grants lead you to a dead end and they have strings attached. Grants are good for projects, certain projects or infrastructure, but not to hire
Mayor
employees.
Youssef, your time is up.
Well, grants are also good for equipment. Grants are also good for limited sustainability. I agree with that. However, some of the mandates that are put on by taking a grant, which most people call strings attached, when you're in a position that the community is in now, you can ask for waivers. The city never did that when it came to the SAFER grant they had. They never asked for a waiver, they never asked for an extension. They didn't take full advantage of the opportunity and what that grant could have done for the community.
I know that you say you can opt out of some things, but you can't opt out of all things, so there are always strings attached. There's no such thing as free money. And also, to say that to keep the local control, you know what? We're not here arguing who's better. We're here, can we please look at the numbers? The citizens of Hemet deserve to see all options that are on the table. We're only asking to open the books. That's it. Give us the all-in cost for everything. And I myself, I will tell you right now in regards to taxes, I was absolutely opposed on Measure O. I'm absolutely opposed to the parcel tax, and I would like each one of these candidates to go on record on those two items.
Bonnie's absolutely right. That SAFER grant, they didn't go after it properly. That could have been waived. They never went back to, we don't have a relationship with Washington, D.C. anymore. They haven't gone back there. 4 years they haven't gone back. They have to have a relationship with Washington and get things through. That money is just sitting there. And if it doesn't go to towns and cities, it's going to go back in their coffers. They've got it sitting aside.
I think we need full-time grant writers. Bonnie has that kind of experience, and she knows what it is to write for grants all the time. You layer grants. You just don't go and get one grant. All grants expire. They don't go on for year after year. You get a grant, you go get another grant. You get another grant to fulfill the strings attached for the other grant. You get people to work on these projects, but you don't stop doing it. The water department has raised $350 million with grants. The city of Hemet, that's 6 times our budget. The grants you can get are also from private foundations. You don't have to go to the government to do grants. There are more grants
Mr.
available.
Cook, your time is up.
It's been said that the money is just sitting there. I would like to know where there is, first of all. But second of all, Shellie Milne already spoke about the government being $16 trillion in debt. And you think, okay, well, that's the federal government. What about our state government? We're also billions of dollars in debt. Who pays those taxes to give them the money to give us the grants? That's each one of us that pays taxes. I'm sorry, the money is not sitting there. I've seen enough red on a piece of paper to know that they don't have money for us. Once again, with the grants, this is nonsense. The firemen almost got rid of 6 firemen because of a grant expiring. How many more people do you want to put through stress in their families when the husband has to go home and say, you know what, I might lose my job because a grant expired?
Local control is something that we need to have. We need to be able to make organic decisions for our community, not let someone in Sacramento or someone in DC tell us how to run our community. If you or I need to do something, we can do it ourselves for a lot cheaper. We don't have to pay the overhead if we hire somebody else. So, I mean, I'm willing to look at the numbers, but I'm sure we can do it cheaper than, based on what San Jacinto has done.
Before the panel answers the third question, I just want to remind everybody that your answer should be no longer than 90 seconds and your rebuttals are 30.
Okay, the last question, and we'll start off with Mr. Avila and work our way down to Mayor Youssef, is how do you plan on meeting the demands of our changing demographic?
Demand of changing demographics. This is something simple, at least for me. I look at our history of our country. I look at how we came about, how we came to be at one point the greatest nation in this on earth. I look at the Declaration of Independence and it says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So we are all equal individuals. No group of people or persons should be treated differently than any other in America. We all have the same rights and the same privileges. Of course, we have hearts and we have compassion, so we have certain things that we do for handicapped people or disabled people. That's something that we do out of compassion and of heart. But the government needs to look at you and I, everyone else, as one individual with the same rights, nothing special, nothing different. We are all equal.
Amen. One of the way that I saw this question was more along the lines of, right now we have a community that used to be a retirement community. Matter of fact, it was referred to me as a community that may be a cul-de-sac. Are we a cul-de-sac community? Is this the end of the road? And over the last couple of years, when the economy went down, we had a younger generation move in. Matter of fact, when I moved here, I was told, why are you moving to Hemet? It's either newlyweds or nearly deads. And now, with our demographic, with the younger generation moving in, we need to keep what we have with the senior citizens, because I love the sense of community that they have, the experience that they have to help the younger community. We have things like big brothers and sisters, big brothers, something like that. And seniors can help with that. I love the activities that they put forward. And I think the youth, the younger generation, can also take advantage of things like that to learn from our seniors. I think one of the things we need to do also, we spoke about unemployment being 16%. We need to raise that. We need to have jobs for the younger generation so they're not walking around and marking up signs and graffitiing around on the sidewalk. if we can have jobs, if we can make our city safe, bring in businesses, they will hire these kids, and they'll have more things to do than go around and mess up our neighborhoods.
The changing demographic, I think, is addressing the senior, comparing the numbers of seniors to the younger generation that we find in the community over the last 10, 15 years, from what I understand. I think we have a huge brain trust we're not tapping into in our senior community. I think we really need to allow the seniors to partake of the community more and help them by facilitating communication between them and the rest of the community. I think we need to look at our families. There's a whole variety of people that live here of different ages, and I think we need to look at what's benefiting each of them and find ways of improving that. It's a formula, and we need to focus on creating more equity for everybody.
The demographics have changed. We used to be a big senior community. We still are. We have to take care of our seniors. But now we have approximately 22,000 children in our unified school district. We've got to get more family oriented to things that families can do in this town. And that's going to come from the private sector. We've got to go out. At one time, Mulligan's was looking at Hemet. You know, that's a family center. We need to get back into that. Valley-wide does a terrific job in all their sports and what they've got. Now they've bought Echo Hills. They've got a golf course going in. And we really should never have let Met off the hook when they were going to put all our facilities down at the lake. That was wrong. Our city council should have gone after them because there was $92 million. And they just spent that down. But they should, shame on them. And shame on our city council for not going after them.
You know, I've often heard, much like Bob, everybody says, why are you going to Hemet? And we need to change that. The demographic is, yes, it's a younger, you know, family-oriented that's coming in here, and they most definitely have to sit there and recognize the seniors. The seniors give so much into the community, but we need to get rid of this mentality of it's a cul-de-sac. We absolutely, if we want to change and move ahead with the change, with the diversity of our neighborhoods now, we're going to have to look at things which are going to change that mentality, getting into the general plan, making tourism, making, you know, the private sector, the arts. We really need to do that. We need to give the younger families something to do. Where do we go when we need to go see a movie? Where's the mall? Where's these other things? We have to free up regulation. We have to get into the general plan. We have to do those things in order to not make this the end of the road, but the beginning of the road for our families.
Well, I agree a lot with what Rick said as well. However, I do think that the demographic hasn't changed a whole lot because in the early 1990s, when the city annexed the east end of town, it brought that MHI, it included more families, younger demographic, and so it changed or it certainly lowered the average age of the community, but the community residents were still the same. We have, of course, we did bring in more families due to our better housing costs and that sort, but in any event, I was part of those talks early on. I think I was chairman of the chamber at the time when DVL, or when Metropolitan had made all those promises. And I absolutely agree with Rick. We should have held them to the fire. Now it's too late. It may be too late. Now they indicate that there isn't any more money. However, I think if we take small steps, make them responsible or accountable for the promises they made this community, that's certainly a step in the right direction.
Well, Mr. Coleman, I'll have you know I am a newlywed, but and Mr. Foreman takes offense to the nearly not. I'm just kidding, I love you, Jim. Bottom line, folks, yeah, to meet the demands of the changing demographics is jobs, industry. Everything else will come with it. Just like our neighbors over off of Winchester Road have done. They went after industry. Now they have things for their member folks to do. We have to go after things that are going to attract higher paying jobs, that are going to attract those type of people that are going to want to live here. Like higher education. What are we going to be known for? Once we bring those things in and we've got our niche as we compete with the other cities, then they're going to see that higher income. Then you're going to see other things that are going to come with, better movie theaters, whatever the case may be, activities for, whether it's for seniors or for younger folks. But we can talk all day about we need to get this little piece here and that little piece there. The underlying problem is we don't have the jobs here in the community to attract any of these other things that we're talking about here tonight. I said we finally got through a stalled general plan. We just got that step going. Now we have to be known what this community is going to be known for. Get those jobs here, and everything else that we talked about, attracting other things, recreation, those other things, are going to come here and follow with us after that.
So we're going to finish with the rebuttal, starting off with Mr. Avila, 30 seconds.
Something I heard up here from all the candidates was, what we, the city, the government needs to do for the changing demographic. The thing that we need to do, is the government needs to do, is get out of the way and let you, the community, decide what you want to do, what you want to bring to this town, what you want to invest in, what you want to build in. If you want to open this kind of store, that kind of store, a skate park, or whatever it is, you decide that. Government has no authority to decide that for you.
I concur. We do need to get regulation out of the way. That's how we get the businesses in. When we say, hey, you know what, this red tape has been removed, you're welcome to come within our city limits and build businesses. That's what will bring the businesses in. That will allow the youth to have their jobs once again. When the youth have their money, they like to spend it. And when they spend it, that brings more people that want to do business here. That includes stuff like mulligans and whatnot. My wife and I love to do things like going skating at our skating rink here in Hemet. We like to go bowling. But the things that we have are so limited. What we need to do is shop locally so we can show businesses you can make a profit here, and that will attract other people.
I think this community has an awful lot of resources that we're not tapping into. Resources that have to do with the historical aspects of Hemet. That's a big one. The other things are the agricultural that we really don't do much in anymore. I mean, I know we do potatoes and there's some straw growing here and there, but there's not a lot of other growth. I think we need to focus on things that will create good paying jobs, living wages, not minimum wages.
If you think about it, if we got a lot of big businesses in here, like a Guyton, which would never happen, we don't have the freeways. We don't have the roads to get people in and out. We're never going to bring something big in like that. We've got to attract small industrial businesses to come to this town.
I don't like to hear the word never. So once again, I've got to go back and say, you know what? There are ways to get roads in here. There are ways to change the demographic. There are ways to enhance what we have and to get into the general plan. Look at where all these there are regulations speeding down on us from a global scale that we are adhering to, and they're absolutely wrong. Get into the general plan, free up the regulation, let the government get out of the way, and the private sector will make Hemet a destination.
You know, I often said that Hemet is like a diamond in the rough. We just have to know how to polish the facets and make it shine. And Rick's right. We're never going to be a Temecula, nor I think none of us want to be a Temecula. We need to continue to grow and maintain the charm of the valley. We just need to know how to do it and plan it and follow through with it.
Can't and never are defeatist words. I refuse to say we can't get jobs here or we never will be something. That's just not true. You're right, we don't have the infrastructure like we need, and we absolutely need the infrastructure. But there's other things we can still do too. There's a brine line up there that needs to be moved down so we can get, there's been many proposals from the past of trying to get a railway to come through here so they can do industry. So there's things that we can do. So saying we don't have the roads to do here is not an excusable excuse. We have to find the ways, we have to look at everything, find out what we can do. Like you're absolutely right, we are a gem and we're different. So how are we going to make it work for us? And that's how we're going to get those jobs.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our pre-selected question period. We will now be asking questions given by you, the audience, and the community members and the voting public.
Okay, we'll start this off with Mayor Youssef and work our way down. And the first question is, what do you feel would be a good solution to keep public safety services local and not outsourced?
Whatever agency that provides our services, one of the things that we saw just in the city of Norco, the city of Norco recently contracted out their fire department. And just about every one of their firefighters were picked up and still work at the city of Norco. They have a different badge on and they get their paycheck from somewhere else, but they're still working within their city. So just as we look to hire and employ, those folks will look also to within their community and find out where do they live and where is the closest place that they can put them.
I'm sorry, would you give me the question again? Oh, I just want to make sure I...
What do you feel would be a good solution to keep public safety services local and not outsourced?
Communication. I absolutely support our local PD and fire. We need to have the ability to keep those negotiations local. You know, when outsourcing and you're dealing with a much larger union and you really don't get a chance to sit at a negotiating table, you give up the right to come to a consensus as to what's best for the community. The state, you know, we've talked about, certainly some of you have said the state doesn't have any money, and why would we put a state agency or county agency in charge of our community when we know what we need and we have great people servicing us?
Once again, I go back to, we have to open the books. If we want to keep local control, then we need to honestly look at it and say, is that the best service that we can get? We get great service right now, but we also have money that we have to have, that has to come into play. We have to open the books, and we can't honestly answer this question or say whether we would outsource or not outsource without looking at those books. I'm not willing to do that. I am not willing to take a shot in the dark. I want to see all the numbers. I want to see what's going in, and I want to see what they have to put forth. You're right, communication is the key, and not picking and choosing the stats that anybody wants to give us, whether it be sheriff, CAL FIRE, or our own entities. We have to have an open and honest communication and an open and honest plan to go forward.
If the bid was apples to apples, absolutely, as a fiduciary responsibility of that chamber, of the council, yes, you look at it. However, when you go to CAL FIRE, you have no negotiating rights. It goes to Sacramento. Whatever that firefighters union tells you, you pay. And don't tell me it can be less expensive. Of course, in business, the first bid will come in very low, but it'll keep going up and up and up because you have no power to do anything with it.
We're not going to reduce the cost to the citizens, I don't believe, by outsourcing the fire department. Because what's going on here is that the city wants to release its obligation for the debt on the fire department. And if we just focus on reducing our obligation as a city, who's going to take it up? The citizens. Do you want to have your costs raised? They're not going to go down on a permanent basis, and there's no reason for the county to provide a service that's less expensive to the citizens. I don't support outsourcing unless, for some reason, it's better service. And I don't think that that CAL FIRE can provide a better service based on the location of their stations in relation to the population of the city of Hemet. Besides, from what I understand, CAL FIRE can't use Hemet stations because those stations are configured differently. It's different equipment, different.
Mr. Cook, your time is up.
The solution that would keep our people local would be for us to have, one, better negotiations. If we can bring down the cost of the business of the police and the fire that are local, then we can keep them local. If the costs are better outside, then we need to seek for that too. We're in a situation where we have no money. But recently, I can tell you this, when we lost that grant that lost, the firemen had to come up with $800,000 to keep those firemen. And what was interesting was the fire department actually made it. They made 75% of that $800,000, and the city council said, you know, we'll make up the rest. If the firemen can decide, hey, you know, we have ways that we can cut this and make it cheaper for us to stay local, then, you know, let's do that with our police too. I don't mind keeping our people local. I don't mind if we go out to county. I don't mind who we use, because as a first responder, I've worked alongside some of these men. I've worked alongside firemen here in Hemet on gas breaks and whatnot. They are good men. They are good workers. The firemen that are local are good workers. CAL FIRE are good workers. The county sheriff, they're good
Mr.
workers,
Coleman,
and they
your
love
time
their
is up.
job. It doesn't
Mr.
matter to
Coleman.
me if we go out
Mr.
or we
Coleman,
stay,
your time is
so
up.
it's cheaper.
What do you feel would be a good solution to keep public safety services local and not outsourced?
Something that we should do is we go to Chief Brown, we go to Chief Morris, and we tell him, how much money do you need to keep our services local and to fund these two departments to the best capability that we can realistically, and then we do it. We focus on those two budgets first. Those are our priorities. Public safety is the #1 priority that government needs to give us. The safety needs to protect our liberty, needs to protect our freedom, and needs to make us safe. So fire and police should be the very first two budgets that we fully fund before we even touch anything else, to guarantee that businesses come to Hemet, to guarantee that we, the community, feel safe in this town. We need to do that. That's the only way that we can fix this problem, is if we talk directly to the chiefs of these departments and ask them, what do you need and how do we do it?
And we'll start with rebuttals, and we'll go from there. Youssef.
Richard, you're absolutely right. The problem is our poor guys in uniform. We've gone to them every year and saying, this is what we need, this is what we need. The problem is that it's taking it out of their paychecks. So our police department, our fire department have done that year after year. The problem is now the rubber's meeting the road here. We have to look and see if we can save money. I will tell you, no one here is going to tell you tonight that our fire department, our police department don't do an excellent job. They absolutely do an excellent job, and we've seen the strides we've made for our police department to try to help compensate some of those things. But the reality is, you have to take a look and see what options are available.
I agree with that to some extent. However, our city chose to spend almost $400,000 on hiring a consultant that offered nothing to us. We should have our own leadership to be able to solve those problems. Did they go to the police and fire to do that? I don't know. But I do know that we wasted $400,000.
I will tell you that I will not forsake our future to pay for our past. Okay, long-time pensions liabilities that I know that we have, the chickens are coming home to roost. We have to figure out how we're going to pay for these, and that is part of what's going to go on. Once again, coming from the private sector, I have to tell you, you must have competition. These things will keep you honest. They keep you up. Open it up. Let's see if they are the better deal. Who is the better deal? I have my allegiance to the taxpayers of Hemet and the safety of Hemet, not to who writes the paycheck.
my allegiance definitely to Hemet. And I'm not negotiating or turning it over to a state up in Sacramento that is broke, losing funds. Who do you think it's going to come on to? It's going to come on to us. They're going to flip the bill to us and go up in price. They have to. We've got to keep our own.
Just one note, we're not going to reduce our pension obligations except through the local pensions. Those same pension obligations are going to exist on the state level. So wherever you shift the money, the burden is still going to fall on the local taxpayer. We're going to reduce our liability for the city for the city coffers, but we're not going to reduce the liability for the citizens.
You know, it's been, less than an hour, and we've gone from they have tons of money out there to they're broke. So I'm glad we made that bound. The press enterprise, 1 year ago, said that it was $165 per capita to pay for county fire. To stay with city, it was $240 per capita. That means for every 2 people that we hire in the county, that we could almost have a third person. That was the numbers from the press enterprise 1 year ago. We have $50 million in unfunded liabilities with the police. We can, time's up.
Again, we need to focus and put our priorities straight. Why are we cutting our paycheck for our police officers? These men and women are risking their lives to protect us. I have always said since I was a child, you know, policemen and firemen do not get paid what they should get paid for what they do. So we should be cutting our paycheck. We should be looking at other departments of government and cut maybe, hey, administrative pay. Have you guys looked at the budget? Administrative pay has gone up quite a bit.
The next question from the audience, and we'll start with Mr. Avila and work our way down to Mayor Youssef, is we keep hearing the phrase, take back the community. What does that mean to you?
To me, taking back the community means starting the process of restoring constitutional government from the bottom up. This is the only way that we, the people, once again, get control of our local government. It's not going to be easy, and it's not going to happen overnight. We've had generations and generations of unconstitutional government piling up on us over the decades. It's not going to be easy. Like I said, it's not going to be easy. So we need to start debating. We need to start having these public debates like tonight, where we need to come together and see what do we want our government to be. Is the role of government in a free society to tell us what we can and cannot do, or is it to protect our individual liberty? This is, you know, being 24 years old, I personally see the long-term effects of what our government at the federal, states, and local level are doing to my generation. And it terrifies me, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here.
You know, it was the Tea Party that coined that phrase a couple of years ago, taking back our country or taking our country back. What does take back our community mean? It means that we are fiscally responsible. It means that we exercise limited government and that we exercise free enterprise. We allow people to exercise business freely. We talked about removing regulation. If we remove that regulation, Mr. Avila, you're dead on. People will come in. That's what taking back our community means. Limiting our government, being fiscally responsible, and exercising a free enterprise.
To me, taking back the community means community participation. This is a good example of that. But if you look at the numbers of people that participated in the cleanup for rebuild over at the Salvation Army about a month ago, it was about 80 people. We've got about 80,000 people in the area. So, you know, we have a long way to go to take back the community to create participation. I don't know, maybe we have 125 people in this room. Again, 80,000 people, 30,000 voters, you know, that's not a lot of people. There's no community TV. There's no community radio to outreach to the community. I think we need advisory committees. Besides Hemet Rocks, I think we need many, many ways of reaching out to the community and having the community participate in their government. And I think that's the only way that this town is going to change, is when people participate.
Absolutely, it's the citizens. And I've seen this grassroots group of Rebuild Hemet. They're doing a great job. We got to do it section by section by section and hold those landlords that are absentee and the banks, hold them accountable to keep the properties up. And we've got to take back this community. We've got to do it through organizations, through churches, through our citizens, through Rebuild Hemet, through the ROCKS program, but the city council has to be responsible and help them.
Like Mr. Coleman said, being a Tea Party organizer for the last 4 years, that was the first thing that got me up and going, was to take back our country. Since then, it was a slogan from my very first one, and to me it means personal accountability. It means you yourself are the first one to stand up and do it, because as I've done with my children, the way that you lead is through example. Not through talking, not through committees, but getting out there and actually doing it. Not waiting for the accolades, not waiting for the pat on the back, but do it because it's your responsibility to get up and do it. It absolutely lies on the citizens, because being an American is advanced citizenship. We live in the greatest country in the world, and it is time to stand up and take it back and say, I am an American, I am proud to be an American, and you are not going to trash my country, my city, my neighborhood, my block, even across the street from me.
I think it's pride of ownership. It's working for the people, with the people, listening and planning accordingly. I, for one, am very grateful for Rebuild Hemet. I think that it's engaged the community. Unfortunately, in the beginning, it was for a bad reason. But whatever it took, it brought people together for the betterment of the community, and we need to encourage that and keep it going. We have a good start at making things happen, and I, for one, applaud those efforts, and wish I actually worked here in the community so I could be a part of it a little bit more often. But in any event, I want to thank you for what you do, and I encourage others to join the effort as well.
You know what taking back means? Taking back means taking back the old, tired policies of the last 20 and 30 years of we can't do it this way, we can't touch this, you can't see it this way, this is a tradition. Take back those old, tired policies that have put us where we are today, decision-making, of not being open-minded, of not coming together regionally and finding help, and moving past that. That's what it needs to take back. Take back the poor decisions of the past that have led us here to where we see this crime, where we see blight, and take it back from everything that's led up to this point. So when we say take it back, it means let's take it back from that tired old way that does not work anymore, and come up with new creative ways that get us out of one of the toughest things that we've seen since this country's seen since the Depression. That's what needs to take it back. Remove the old and replace it with new and innovative.
We're going to start with Ramon, Mr. Avila, and work away to you.
Pretty much, like I said, we all agree that it starts with the citizens. I don't think any of us don't agree on that. But something that I've learned in the past couple of years is it's not just the citizens, not just participating, but we have to know and understand our founding documents. We have to know and understand why our founding fathers died and did everything that they possibly could to give us this country that we have now. So just educate yourself and know your founding documents. They're your friend, I promise.
One of the things that taking back our community also means is getting to know your neighbors. What's interesting to me is I showed up here tonight not knowing that my neighbor was going to show up. And as soon as I saw him, I recognized him. I knew him by name. That's what taking back our community means. I'm an Eagle Scout. So during the Boy Scout program, I had the opportunity to do projects to help my community. I helped install those blue reflectors in the middle of the street so you can see, so the firemen can see where the fire hydrants were when they're driving down the road. Doing small things like that, bringing our community together with those projects like what Rebuilding Hemet has done, that's taking back our community.
I don't want this to sound like a slight, but we've been waiting 4 years for change. We've been waiting 4 years in Hemet since this administration has been running it to see these things happen. And I don't want to wait any longer, and I don't think talking about how things can change now abrogates the fact that things weren't changing for the last 4 years. We could have been doing these things in parallel with the way the city was running for the last 4 years.
I have to agree with Gary here. 4 years ago, we had a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. that brought in over $27 million. Her salary was $26,000 a year. 4 years ago, they fired her. Does it make business sense? No. And you know what? The council before, years ago, brought in that citizen, the senior citizen act. They fought for it. It's a national national law. It's a national bill. Absolutely. Our council
Mr.
put
Crimeni,
it in.
your time's up.
I'm going to take it back. We need to be in the service. Bob's actually absolutely right. We need to be in the service. We need to be more engaged instead of so divided. This community is so divided with the rhetoric that sometimes I sit there and go, why would anybody want to be a part of it? We need to get back, look at where we agree. We can agree to disagree. That's fine. Let's agree to disagree. But let's look. We all have one thing that we agree on at least. Let's do that and fix that one thing we all agree on.
No, I agree with a lot of what everybody said. However, I think too, we need to look back and see how engaged, this used to be a community that were engaged in a lot of different things. That what hasn't been the case for a number of years. And mainly because our leadership hadn't been engaged either in the community. For the last 4 years, you really hadn't seen our leadership be engaged at community events, bringing the community together as we once knew it to be. And I think we need to bring that back.
You know what? 4 years of different policy making has led from a $13 million deficit to a $12 million reserve. The last 4 years, we've done changes that said you couldn't do that. You can't go and privatize our trash department. You can't go and privatize the landscaping. You can't go take a look at it and see if you can't find a better stuff. Because this is how we've always done it. We've done this for the last 20, 30 years. Change came to save the city from bankruptcy. Change came from unincorporating. Change came to keep this city financially solvent. And now we have to make the next step to go ahead and rebuild it.
We're now going to our last audience question, and we'll start with Mary Youssef and work directory. And the question is, do you think administrative services, such as the city attorney's office, are overpriced? What is your plan to cut those costs?
The first thing 4 years ago when I got elected, the same thing we couldn't do is the first item that I said for a future agenda is I wanted to go out for an RFP, a request for proposal for city attorney fees. I campaigned 4 years ago on the city attorney. The city attorney fee with the prior council was $2.4 million. That next year, the budget was $800,000. So we went out for an RFP. We brought it down to $800,000. Now it's gone up a little bit. It's about 1.2, but we've seen a lot of things that we haven't had to deal with in the past. Hemet Rocks is going to cost us money to get those ordinances out. We've had strenuous, on both parties, labor negotiations that have cost us money. So we've seen that uptick. But from $2.4 million, that was consistent from the prior council years ago. I went out, the first thing we did was go out for an RFP. And so when anyone says you can't go and do these things, that's absolutely correct. We were able to save money there. We were able to save money off of some other things like landscaping. We were able to privatize some of the city services, and that's how we were able to do that.
Obviously wasn't part of those negotiations, and you know, if in fact those services did cost that, it was the responsibility to work to see why that was and do something about it. I do believe that our city attorney should be on a retainer and not so much an hourly wage. I think you open yourself up to excess charges. I mean, they have nothing to lose, basically. And so I would like to see it definitely be on a retainer and additional services under special circumstances.
Absolutely, across the board, we have to go in, open up the budget, look where everybody is. We have to go out for RFPs. We have to privatize every single thing we can. That's how you return jobs into the community. So between privatization, opening the books, doing RFPs, doing everything you can to create competition, because as Robert said, whenever you open up those books and shed the light, strange things happen. All of a sudden they become competitive, numbers get tweaked, things happen. We have to create competition, because with the competition comes value for us, and as well as quality.
I do think the city attorney should be looked at again. A lot of problems that we have is there's frivolous lawsuits filed, and we have to defend them. And it costs us hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend these things. They're ridiculous. But unfortunately, that's what happens. But I think we need to look at it and put them on a retainer. I would like to see that instead of hourly.
I agree with the retainer idea. I'd also like to take a look at why we're being sued so much. What is causing people to sue us? Because we have to protect ourselves all the time. I also want to look at the idea of the fact that the city manager's budget is up 40% this year, and the finance department is up 15%.
I just want to applaud Mayor Youssef. I think that's great. When I was reviewing the numbers to get ready for the candidacy, it was one of the things that I noticed is the city attorney's fees went down by half. I thought that was incredible. And all it took was to say, hey, you know what? There's probably another attorney out there that's probably going to charge cheaper than you. There are a lot of services that we have in the city that we could probably do that for, and say, hey, look, there's another group out there that can do this cheaper than you and do the same job. The city attorney gets paid $1.2 million. I believe the one in Temecula gets paid $600,000. So there's still some room that we can go down.
I also believe that we need to take a look at the attorney's budget as well, and his pay. Retainer would be great. But not just there, we need to go everywhere. We need to look at every department, every employee, everything. If we truly want to give our fire and our police the resources and the funds that they need to protect our town, to protect our lives here in the city and risk their lives, we need to look at how we're spending our money, and we need to address the issue as that, hey, is there someone that can do it cheaper? And if there is, then we go with them. Competition is key in free markets. Competition makes you make a better product than me, and then it makes me want to up your product. So we need competition, we need to address all the budgets, and we need to, again, prioritize police and fire first.
And now we're going to move into rebuttal, so we'll go from there.
Mr. Avila, so are you saying then, you just said in your statement here that you had to look at all the employees and all the services, so you can find someone else to do it cheaper. Previous statement said, don't do it for police and fire. So which is it? Are you in favor for it, or are you not in favor of it?
What I mean by look at everyone, we need to look at everyone's pay. We need to see us in the private sector have lost our pay, lost jobs. But if you look at the pay of the public sector employees, and I'm not condemning any public sector employees whatsoever, but their pay keeps going up because of these unions. How is it fair that you and I who pay the bills, our pay keeps going down, the middle class is disappearing in America, but the public sector pay keeps going up? All I'm saying is just look at where our money is going, and we need to prioritize it first.
Mr. Avila, are you advocating cuts for police and fire?
No, police and fire do way more than we give them credit for, and they should be paid at a higher wage.
I'm just clarifying, so does that mean everyone but police and fire lower their pay?
No, I'm not saying let's lower anyone's pay. I'm saying let's look and see if we can. I'm not a fortune teller, so I don't know. But we could take a look at it and see where we come.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to Bonnie.
Yeah, I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's not always about cutting. It's about generating revenue. The city has already cut personnel by half of their employees, and you know, they did do their due diligence department by department, but again, we can only cut so far. We have to generate the revenue in order to pay for what we need done.
I don't think that many of us were advocating cutting. I think we were advocating competition. Who can do it? Let's bring jobs. If somebody in the community can do a job better than a government sector person can, let's bring them in. Let's privatize. I believe in competition. The best value for the best service. And let's see where that is and open that up to the public and let the public know what we're doing. Not just assume that we're making the right choices, but let you know. Competition is the key.
You know, this group out here, these citizens, put in Measure C years ago, and that was a 5-minute response time to get to you medically and fire. That'll all go away with CAL FIRE. The response time is almost 10 minutes. It's your life. I don't believe in contracting that at all. I'm sorry. I know our guys took a 5% cut, and the city promised not to go to CAL FIRE. They've done it for 2 years, I believe now. And they have.
Your time's up.
I think there needs to be a balance in the way we look at the pay for the public employees. And I'm talking about primarily on the administrative side, because I think that we're in a position where we are negotiating with our unions already. But I think we need to look at our administrative costs and balance what the administrators are getting in cities nearby with the average pay of the average citizen who lives in Hemet and pays taxes. I also think that the way that we're going to get more money to pay for these costs is by expanding the economy, not just reducing the cost.
One of the things was just said was it's about generating revenue. Now, I know typically that's political speak, meaning let's raise taxes. Could you just clarify if that what you meant? Did you mean let's raise taxes for this or not?
Absolutely not. I meant absolutely not. Did I mean that? I meant bringing business and industry into the community so that those revenues can be brought into the city.
Just wanted to make sure. I feel the same way. I think that with our unemployment, once again, where it is, if we can get the jobs in and those people start working, median income comes up, we spend more at the stores, we get more in sales tax, people start buying more homes, we get more property tax. When we have those revenues coming in, we can do a lot more things, like having more police on the street. I think absolutely. I'm totally against any tax. I know that there's at least one of us that signed for a tax 4 years ago, and I think that was a bad idea. And I think he said he repented of that, so that's good. But I would not raise taxes at all.
Mr. Coleman, your time's up.
I wish for Measure O. And that would have put $4, $5, $6 on your utility bill to help pay for safety, and it was for police, fire, and the library. And that would have done about $72 a year for you. I saw the way the crime was coming into the town, and for $72, I wanted it.
It was a 5% tax on every single utility. That's your electric, that's your gas, that's your water, that's your sewer, that's your trash, that's your internet. I read the bill, that's what it said. It was 5% on everything. And not only that, but it was going into the general budget, which means it was not earmarked specifically for fire or for police. It was just the general fund. I read the bill. I didn't sign my name on it to have it go forward and be voted on, but I did read it.
Again, we need to be able to look and see where, we need to be able to match public sector pay with private sector pay. How is it fair that average income in Hemet is $35,000 per individual, but that's $2,900 a month, and then you look at the budget, it's on the website, you guys can look at it, and the pay is quite higher, especially for administrative. And manual labor jobs tend to be lower for some reason. But I mean, that's where I'm looking at. We can take a look and allocate those resources to our fire and police. But we do need tax revenue as well with businesses.
Okay. That ends nothing. And so I'm on.
That does end our question and answer period. Now it's time for what should be a moment of fun, actually, for the audience and the panelists. We have a series of questions that we're going to call the lightning round, at which point I see someone's anxious. They're already holding their cards. They have cards to indicate either for or against, yes or no to the question. Very kindergarten-like. We should all get this, including myself. I think we should stand up, have a little bit of fun. So are my heels, I totally understand. John is going to read each question. Each panelist will have approximately 2 seconds to decide their answer and hold up their card so that you, the audience, can see. After which point, if there is a very short answer needed or a rebuttal, they can very kindly share the mics quickly before moving on to the next question.
Okay, the first question is, are you in favor of or opposed to contracting out our public safety services? Red is opposed and green is in favor. Red would be no. Are you in favor? Okay, green would be you're in favor of contracting out our services, and red means you'd be opposed to contracting out.
Hey, come on, yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Kindergartners also.
Answer the question.
Yeah,
It depends.
it depends.
If the services are cheaper and same or better, then contracting out is an option.
Am I willing to look at an RFP? Yes.
It depends.
That's it, and that's fair. Are we gonna-
Luckily for our event, we have covered this question previously in the last 2 sections, so we're going to move on to the next question.
No, let's answer the question.
Why you didn't answer mine?
Okay, well, let's move on. Regarding sharing resources, would you be in favor of a merger between the cities of Hemet and San Jacinto?
Merger?
Yes, a merger.
That option seems plausible now, doesn't it?
The economy of scale can be gotten by merging two small cities together.
Are you in favor of increasing the local sales tax in order to increase revenue? Have you read the general plan for Hemet in its entirety? Are you in favor or opposed to medical marijuana dispensaries?
Which one is opposed, which one is for?
If you're in favor, it'd be the green side. If you're opposed, it's the red side. Are you willing to support the recently mentioned property tax initiative in order to increase revenue? measure safe tax, the one where it's a tax, property tax in order to increase revenue? Would you be in favor or opposed?
No, I haven't read it, so. Tax, no.
Do you support a fine or fee imposed on repeat offenders of blighted properties, whether banks or individuals?
Did everybody just agree? Congratulations.
That was twice, actually.
And I work at a bank.
Do you support rent control in mobile home parks?
Well, it depends. The government's
Yeah,
seniors,
seniors,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a yellow card?
Yeah, it's too broad.
It is a broad
It's too
question.
broad of a question. I think, are we all in favor of seniors?
Senior parkers. Seniors.
You know, I support mobile home residents negotiating with their landlords.
Absolutely. As a group, like a homeowners association.
Okay,
Absolutely.
good answer. Good choice.
Absolutely. But there-
Okay. Now, these next three questions don't require the card. They require a short answer, basically yes or no, and a short explanation, around 15 seconds. What do you think are the top 2 priorities for the city council? Starting off with Mr. Avila.
Easy, police and fire.
I'd say police and economic development.
I want to say ensuring that we represent the city as a good place to live, work, and play, that we get the right image out there, and I think that if we do that, it will help bring businesses to the area. But if we follow some other methods of getting the businesses here, those would be my priorities.
Absolutely safety and get rid of the crime. We have to get that, and then we'll have economic development.
Public safety and economic development.
Same, public safety, economic development.
Public safety and economic development, and smart economic development, industry and jobs.
The next question, we'll start with Mary Youssef and work our way down. Would you consider implementing an annual cost per home to save public safety services?
As in a parcel tax?
Yes.
No.
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 You know what? I gotta say that if we can't clean it up any other way, that would be my very, very last resort. I don't want that. You know what? I want to be safe. I got 2 daughters here. I got a daughter and son-in-law that just bought their first home here. I have a 94-year-old mother.
Mr. Cleary, your time. Okay, now our last, no, there's still more.
I don't think a parcel tax is the way to go. I don't believe in just increasing taxes, but I think people ought to be able to opt in to some kind of a program that provides that benefit.
No, I'm not going to raise your taxes. We're not taxed too little.
Yeah, no taxes. We can't afford it. I would appreciate that little extra money I have for some gas.
Okay, now this last question will move from Richard and go down to Mary Youssef. And the last question is, do you support redeveloping our downtown district in order to better utilize the valuable and unique resource?
Yes, and the only way we can do this is if we get government out of the way and let those property owners redevelop their properties.
Yeah, I'm definitely for private enterprise. I think I don't think that the government should be paying to do it, but I think private enterprise can do it. There's definitely profit to be made by doing that.
There's a 7-fold multiplier effect by investing in infrastructure. There are certain kinds of infrastructure that could be redeveloped downtown that would cause the cash to flow more freely in the community. But at the same time, I think that I don't want to see what happened in my hometown in Santa Barbara,
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
where they overdeveloped it, and it's too expensive for small businesses.
Absolutely, we got a gym. Have you ever been to the Brickyard? They're starting it on Harvard. It's a brand new restaurant. I absolutely agree that we should do that and bring it
private sector.
Yes, absolutely. Let's do it, get the private sector going and get the government all the way out of the way for that.
Absolutely. And which rendering of downtown do you think we should pick? Because I think there's been 5 that we've paid for already and not followed through with any of them.
Yes, does the city of Hemet have the money to do it? No. Should private enterprise do it? Yes.
That concludes the lightning round.
The panelists at this time are going to share their closing remarks. Each one will have 2.5 minutes to do so and to present their platform to you. We'll start with Mayor Youssef.
First off, thank you folks for having all of us here tonight. Thank you folks that go out and want to do good in the community, that go out and do good in the community, that don't have an agenda behind it, but do it because they care about their community. So those folks, I want to say thank you. Thank you to each of my colleagues up here. You can tell each of us have a care and a need for Hemet. We just have different paths to get there. My platform is simple. It's a tough road. And folks, we're going to have to make tough calls. We're not out of this recession. We have a state that's failing. We have a county that's in trouble. We have a city that's in trouble. Tough calls have to be made. And I can sit there and tell you all day that I want to do this, we want to restore this, and stuff. We have to look at the reality, folks. So as each of us, as you listen to each of us, you have to make that tough call. What does that really mean, and what does that equate to? We had to make tough calls these last 4 years. We went out for an RFP on almost everything. Some things we decided to keep. There's some departments that we got back the proposals and said we're keeping it in-house. There's others that said, you know what, we're going to take it outside to save money. You have to be able to make those tough calls. And for anyone that tells you that they're not able to make those tough calls, you really have to evaluate what does that mean for me the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years. I will tell you this, we've heard a lot of talk about taxes tonight. Even if we had a tax in place that got passed by the voters here, it's going to be at least 2 years before we can see that money. Do you folks think we have 2 years to play with that for public safety? We've got to make the tough calls today. We have to be able to make those tough calls. We made tough calls, and we've got $12 million in the bank. Folks, that's not going to last. We keep going down the same policies that we've listened to for the last 20 years. We have to be able to open our minds. It's going to hurt a little bit. It's going to hurt. We have to be able to make those tough calls. We have to be able to say that, you know, we're not going to cut fees, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to streamline processes. We're going to make government more efficient. And that's the decision that has to be made, folks. It hasn't been easy. None of this will be easy, but I'll tell you what, even the most cynical among us wants our neighbors' children to succeed, and that's what we have to take away. So thank you again for this opportunity, and thank you to my colleagues for being up here.
Look, all of us are here basically for the same reason, because we care about the community. We might have different ideas of how to accomplish that. But the bottom line is it's all about communication and working for the betterment of this community and our citizens and listening and having a plan that is fiscally responsible and following through, not dropping the ball and letting the people do their jobs. I never had any ambitions to run for council, I'll tell you right now. I rather worked behind the scenes or through community service. This is just a different step up of community service. And I'm doing it because I think I can be an asset to the community and leadership of the council to make those hard decisions and look at everything objectively with no previous agenda. So that being said, I appreciate all of you here today. I want you to leave with one thing, and that is that we all want this community to be something that we're proud of. I'll do my best to try and make that happen, but I'll be listening to you along the way and working together, engaging the community, and making this community a community we can again be proud of.
I have to mirror Bonnie. I think I've actually been even quoted in the newspaper as saying I would never run for office. I too, once again, it's like I said this morning to somebody, I have a child named Atticus, after Atticus Finch, for any of you that have read To Kill a Mockingbird. Because we do things, not necessarily because we want to, because we know we must. And I think everybody up here has had that calling. This is a hard calling. You know, Mayor Youssef, wow, the beating you take week after council meeting after council meeting, God love you for it, man. You know,
Right.
It is, and we all understand. I think we all get this. We are grateful to the community for them standing up and taking notice and doing those things without an agenda just because they care. But Robert's right, we have to make tough decisions. We can't kick the can down the road. I want this community. I have 6 children. I have a son with Down syndrome. When we came up here, I came up here because of the school that was up here. We knew that this was a good place to live, and it is. It's just we've got these things that we need to take care of. We have social service magnets. We have all these things that we need to absolutely get under control to take back the community, and we can't do it. We're facilitators up here. It's the community that has to help us do it, and we have to stop this disconnect between government and people. We have to reduce the size of government. And anybody that is welcome, I know many of us have had things said about us or done or projections done on us. I invite you to come up to all of us afterwards and see what we think. I know we may differ on many things, but I know there's stuff that we do agree on. And we have to get the government out of the way. I think we all understand that. And we have to get back to the business of, sorry, I didn't mean that right. Back to the business of doing the people's work, not our own personal agendas, not other people's agendas, and not other units' agendas. We're not here. Let's all work together on what we can do and restore the beauty of this community and have everybody go, wow, you live in Hemet. You're so lucky. Let's bring those people here.
Thanks for the plug, Shellie. Back to business. I love it. I have a vested interest in this community. I've been here for 23 years. I love this community. I'm not leaving. I do not want to contract to a state that has no funds. And we can't be in the negotiations. We lose total control. So I'm definitely against fire. I'm definitely against contracting out for the police. I am for safety, and we will find those funds. We've got to bring economic development in. There's no other way around it. We've got to bring the tax dollars in so that we can pay for our services. We don't need $400,000 going out to advisors. That's ridiculous. That's just a waste of money. And you know what? I did support Measure O. And I supported it because I saw the crime coming in. There was no alternative for me to choose to get the public safety. And actually, it would have raised about $5 million per year. 4 to 5, somewhere in there. Okay? Depending upon who moves in, who moves out. But say between 3 and 5. We wouldn't be in the deficit we're in today. And the reason why we have a surplus is because we sold our garbage. So we made a profit there. And who wouldn't buy a business if it wasn't making money? It was an easy sell. That's why we got the extra money. So I thank you all for coming this evening. I do love this town. I do want to stay in this community and work with you people. And I will work for you. And I want to hear your voices. And I thank you.
I've lived in many cities. I've lived in Houston. I've lived in Seattle, Portland, the Bay Area, and Los Angeles. And this is the only community where I've come across people every single day that mean something to me. And it's an amazing thing. I don't know what it is. In some towns you'll say it's the water. In other towns it's something in the air. But there's something in Hemet that makes the people who they are. And this is where I think the possibilities lie, in the people of Hemet. The key is everybody, well, as much as possible, people getting involved to make a difference. And I see it in the churches. This morning I was meeting with Dan Harris of Youth for Christ. This afternoon for lunch I was meeting with the Interfaith Council, as Bonnie was. And there are some amazing people in this town who are willing to go to bat and work really hard. But we have to do it together. We have to be on the same page. And not just economically, but not just talking about taxes, but about bringing our community back together. In America today, the marriage rate is down to about 28.5%. That's ridiculous. In the churches today, even in heaven, 70% of the youth don't stay in the community after they turn 18. The churches are losing people. There is a problem with the morality of the people, and where they're not living up to the expectations of the community. And we have these issues. We really need to turn these things around to make heaven a better place to live. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. I appreciate more the opportunity, as I've been doing, to listen to you. And I will always listen to you, and I will be in the community on a regular basis. So thank you very much.
I want to thank Rebuilding Hemet for setting this all up. You know, I believe it was 3 months ago that I think it was Becky Gomez got mugged. Got all this started, got the fervor going. And I really appreciate that they kept it and built it. Know that I read your posts and that I enjoy them. It's my late night reading. But I do want you to know that I also help out in the community. It's important that all of us do. It'd be hypocritical for me to say, go out there and wipe out graffiti, or go out there and clean up the street and me not do it myself. I may not be posting it where you can see it, and I'm sorry that I'm not as public as some of you are, but I am out there with you, and I appreciate your work and I appreciate your ethic. There are a lot of you that have really good intentions, and I support that. One of the things that happened, you know, before Robert came into the city council is we had a couple of council women, a couple of council people that left a legacy of failure here in our city. They brought up a lot of debt. They brought up a lot of problems in our city. And fortunately, Robert's done a good job in correcting some of that. We now need to send in more council members that will be able to correct it the rest of the way and build the city up. The citizens of Hemet are wonderful people. I love the senior citizens. Anytime I meet somebody who lived through the Great Depression, I love to talk with them and ask them about that year so I can learn from it. That's one of my passions. And I appreciate once again also for everyone being able to come here. This was a great event, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Again, I would like to thank all you guys for being here, and for my fellow colleagues for being here and putting this together. You know, giving us the opportunity to talk to you as it should be, since we are, you know, hoping to represent you. You know, we have a unique opportunity in Hemet this election year. The community is engaged with this Rebuilding Hemet group that started. Not all of it, obviously. There's about 80,000 people here and about 2,600 on the Facebook page. But it's starting. It's starting to get there. When I moved here from Escondido, I was, I believe, 13, 14 years old. To be honest, I didn't like it. I left a big city to come to a bigger city to come to a smaller city. But growing up here, I fell in love with Hemet. You know, the Mount Idlewild being 30-minute drive. You know, Big Bear at the beach. Just the natural landscape of our valley. And I honestly could feel that I could retire in this community. But when I start thinking about that far in the future, I think about the current status quo of government. And I can't even picture myself actually retiring in Hemet because I don't even know if Hemet will exist at that point. So something that inspired me to really run for office this year is the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I am a strong, as you probably all can tell from tonight, strong supporter of our founding documents, strong supporter of liberty, and I will do everything in my power to defend it. But we need to really ask ourselves this fundamental question before it's too late. What is the role of government in a free society? Why did our founding fathers give us the Bill of Rights? Why did they give us the 10th Amendment? Why did it give an enumerated list of powers that the federal government can and cannot do. To give us local control, we need to be able to take care of ourselves. We need to be able to make organic decisions here at the local level. When I filed to run for office, I took an oath, and that oath was to protect, obey, and defend the United States Constitution from both foreign and domestic enemies. And I have no desire or interest to not take my oath seriously. So I will defend, I will obey, and I will protect the United States Constitution to the best of my ability here at the local level.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have the candidates and the constituents for the Hemet City Council. If you could please show your appreciation for their attendance tonight by a round of applause. They will be exiting the stage and entering the foyer for a meet and greet. We do have about 45 minutes for you all to do just that, ask questions out in the foyer and get to know them a little bit better, rather than from your seats and on a stage. We did hope that this evening was informative. We hope that you as the community don't take lightly the information that was provided this evening. And I would like to personally thank all of the people who have donated their time and energy to this evening, including the Hemet Unified School District and Providence High School.
I believe you mentioned asked questions before, and I'd like to do so while all in here.
Sir, I think we need to do this at the meet and greet area.
I don't think so. I think we can do it right here.
By all means. Would you like a microphone?
No, I think you can hear me.
Okay.
Mr. Coleman? Zelton?
Yes. Yes.
Both of you said we need to get government out of the way. We need to cut budget. At the same time, you praised Mr. Youssef for the good work he's done. Both indicate you haven't read the general plan. You haven't therefore read the L.I.I. You haven't read the Section 8 plan. Mr. Youssef and the city council has cut this city to the bone. I am really curious to get beyond the platitudes of cutting, getting government out of the way. What specifically do you want to get out of the way from the way of government, and where do you want to cut it? Assuming you've done your homework, which it does not appear that you have. You want to get rid of police, fire inspectors, building inspectors, plan checkers? Who do you want to get rid of? Where do you want to cut? This man has led us in cutting the budget.
Is that a question or are we preaching to
What is it you want to cut? Thank you, I have the floor. Please tell us what you want to cut. How do you want to get government out of the way?
In an effort to keep this fair, we'll give each panelist 30 seconds.
Okay, privatization. And I have read the general plan, but not in its entirety. I have gone through it, I've done things. We need to get rid of regulation first. You have a huge faceted thing. The privatization, you've got building, permitting, you have all these things that can be gone out to the private sector. We are needlessly paying for city employees for things that the private sector can do.
You're gonna pay somebody to do it.
Thank you.
So you create one job for another.
You know, you said that we've cut it down to the bone. I would say we're not at the bone yet. When we have a city attorney, once again, that we even mentioned tonight, that we all would like to cut his fees. I think there's still some meat on that bone to take away. We actually mentioned quite a few things up here. Once again, I didn't read the whole plan in the entirety. That was the question, but I have read some of the plan. So I'm sorry that you thought I hadn't read anything, but I did read quite a bit of it. What would I cut exactly? I would have to delve into it more. I'd have to look at more of them. But is there room to cut? Definitely. We're not down to the bone yet.
He's still up there.
All right, well, I think my mic got cut